Welcome to the Navigator podcast.
Welcome to the Navigate Academy, Module 19, Project Internal Kickoff Meetings. Our guest today is Robert Hammond, Senior Consultant for Navigate. So thanks for coming on, Robert. I'm enjoying the relationship thus far.
Oh, me too, Brad. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So Robert's I'll just say a battle-tested leader in the low voltage industry, a long history of leading successful change in a number of organizations, especially stage front for over 20 years. You've worked through engineering, project management, install, support, live events, HR. Again, you're kind of that utility player that is the glue behind it but you also have seen it all. You've also been a key member within AVIXA, NSCA, USAV Group, and others, speaking on panels, mentoring people, working with a number of groups that really improve companies and the industry as a whole. So I appreciate that. You're serving right now as a fractional COO for one of our clients, and also helping to start to implement ERP systems as well as business process improvements, structural changes, those types of things. From a process flow, what do you see the importance of project internal kickoff meetings having to both the project itself, but also the company as a whole?
Well, I think they're absolutely critical. A good project kickoff meeting gets everybody on the same page. And once everybody's on the same page, then they can go in the same direction. That project kickoff meeting, it provides a space where everyone can assess the project from multiple angles and hash through any misunderstandings or any uncertainties there may be before the heat of the project is on and everybody is just trying to execute. So as far as the impact it has to the company, I mean, it's huge. I've seen, over my time, I've seen these project kickoff meetings result in substantial gross margin points to a project. Things that we thought were going to be really bad projects where, they were estimated way below our gross margin thresholds just in order to get the project.
Yeah.
We ended up turning that around in what we would consider, good gross margin for the time. Sometimes, anywhere from 5 points to, on a few rare occasions, the double-digit turnaround that you always hope to see.
So I'll flip the question. What's the impact of not having them? And then, is that caused by? I look at companies and I see that sales and operations just don't view themselves as a team. So kind of what's the cost and you've already brought up profit erosion, but just in terms of like morale, communication, those types of things when you don't have them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough. When you are just handed a set of documents and somebody says, go and do this, and you don't have the opportunity to ask questions or clarify or plan, it's very, very difficult to operate as a cohesive team, right? That trust, it's hard to rebuild from that point. I mean, you have to be handed a pristine package of information that details everything, which, as we all know in this industry, you can't do that. We're in construction.
You're not going to get it right.
Yeah, we're in labor and things are going to constantly change, and you can't, at the very beginning pre-sales, you can't plan for all the eventualities. So this meeting is it's that meeting where everybody gets to sit down and voice their concerns and plan together as a group. So I see it building trust. It builds better relationships between your teams, and it just makes the overall thing smoother.
So when you hear, my kind of premise is, if I want to learn good habits, I start with small things. But I'll often hear with internal kickoff meetings, it's like, we don't have time for them, or it's only a small project, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Kind of what's your take on that?
Yeah, mine is always says, okay, well, you're going to pay for it later. If you don't want to sit down and talk as a team about how you're going to do this project, you're going to pay for it, right? And as we all know, the farther you get into a project, the more costly that is. So, spend the 30 minutes that you need at the beginning of this project to get everybody on the same page, so that you don't have to spend several hours later hashing out all of the problems that you missed, that you could have prevented at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think again, it's building that trust, but it's building common sense. So if a project manager continually asks the same questions of the salesperson in these kickoff meetings, or even writes it down and shares it with them beforehand and say, these are the questions I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
One would hope that the salesperson came prepared.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's a great point. Often people think of these things, I've seen people create agendas for project kickoff meetings that's, several pages long. And they're like, well, yeah, these meetings can last, an hour, 2 hours. And I'm going, no, they don't need to be. If everybody does their homework in advance,
Exactly.
This meeting is, for a small project, it can be as much as a 5 or 10 minute stand up.
Right. Just tell me where I'm going to get bid.
Right.
Or that's it.
Yeah.
I don't see them as reading meetings, but it's amazing how many times people come and read stuff. I'm like, did you not read it before the meeting?
Right. Absolutely. And then that's where I see, you see this a lot, and I know you've seen this at the beginning of these, when people start this process, that's what they do. They come in and the first thing is always discuss scope. So they sit down and they read the entire,
Right.
2 or 3 pages of the scope document. And then they walk page by page through the engineering drawings, and everybody leaves going, well, that took a really long time, but I don't know what I learned.
Right. I didn't learn anything that wasn't on that sheet of paper.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Do that stuff in advance and come with your questions and efficiently move through those. And that's when it starts to really rock.
So if we tried to build that, again, you've done it before, what are some things you had to do to make these part of the DNA of the company?
I think a lot of what we just said, undoing that thought pattern is one of the keys.
Okay.
The first thing is you got to get everybody to commit to it. So you got to get them in, and you got to have them scheduling that meeting. It's got to be a no miss event.
Right.
You have to have it in every project, and you have to have everybody there. You can't let some people say, I'm not going to be there, and some people show up, because it doesn't work in that situation. So then once you get them on the schedule, then you got to have that good agenda. You got to have a short, concise agenda that touches on everything that everybody's going to need.
Right. And we put one up on the resource library for people to see. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And again, a lot of times people will block off a morning, like Thursday mornings or kickoff day. So people are in the office. And if you don't know what Thursday is, it's the same day every week.
Yeah.
So that's kickoff day. If you don't have one, do something else, but you're there available.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great way to do it. Really great way to do. A lot of offices do that really well. And then I've also found that having, the right people leading that meeting helps, especially in the beginning. The person that's really has kind of bought into it, and they're engaged, and they ask the right questions and they promote, is very helpful. You can also teach people how to do that. You can
absolutely, and that's
coach them how to do
junior
that.
PM asking, and again, we're not saying interrogating, but asking a whole bunch of questions of a really senior sales person or engineer. They might go, I'm not asking those. Well, here, sit over here and watch me.
Exactly.
And then you do the next one. Yeah, because it's a conversation, but I want to provoke. I want to start looking at what's the uniqueness, what's the risk, what are the things we don't know. And sometimes those are uncomfortable conversations, but again, it's the conversation that counts.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be confrontational. It doesn't have to be argumentative. It's just, I think once everybody understands that this meeting is about honesty and openness, and once everybody believes that, the other people in the meeting are coming from that same place,
absolutely,
it gets much easier. That's where that trust is built. And these meetings, once you get to that level and you're able to have the right agenda and be running it correctly, and everybody shows up, what I find out is it's very funny, because within short order, people start complaining about all of the projects that don't have kickoff meetings.
Right. Then
so
you're winning.
Skip one, you get in trouble, and everybody, it's that peer pressure starts to work in your favor.
Well, and I'll also say, if we start to have good kickoff meetings, miraculously scopes get better. It's like, I don't know how, but it just seems like, huh. So it's just, again, a whole educational conversation.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody knows what everybody else is expecting, and it just becomes a
Awesome.
much smoother operation. Yeah.
Well, we always like to look at our Navigate library and a Navigate book club. So what business book are you currently reading, and then what are you learning from it?
Yeah. So I read a lot of kids' books these days. I have a 2-year-old.
Okay.
So,
Sometimes those are pretty good business books too.
yeah, they do. But there is one that I actually keep beside me all the time, and it is one of my favorite all-time books. And it's called The Personal MBA, the subtitle of Master the Art of Business by Josh Kaufman.
Okay.
If you've never read this book, pick it up. It's wonderful. I have an engineering background. One of my major backgrounds is engineering, so I'm very procedural. This book is, 400 or 500 pages, but it's a topic, and each page is like 2 topics or 2 pages. Each topic is like 2 pages. So it's very concise, and it covers everything from finance to HR to legal matters to coaching and mentoring. So it's really wonderful. You can just kind of open it, flip open a page, and you've got a great topic right there. But one of the most valuable things in it is each one has a further reading section. And he has compiled the best business books that have been written in the past 100 years for each one of these topics. And so if you're ever looking for something to add to your library, I promise you, you can open that book and you will find something new, and it is something of value. So that is always my favorite one. I keep it right beside me.
Great.
Everywhere I go.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you, Robert, for your insights on Project Internal Kickoff meetings. And again, just having you on board. Take care.
All right, Brad. Thank you.
Bye-bye.